Good morning, and thank you for joining us with Colorado Business Roundtable's Road to Recovery event, focusing on the aerospace sector here in Colorado. My name is Debbie Brown, and I'm the president of the Colorado Business Roundtable, and I want to welcome you on behalf of our board of directors and our partners. And I want to thank our panelists who we'll introduce in a few moments, who are giving their time to discuss this important conversation, especially about the aerospace's economic vitality here in Colorado. And a special thank you to United States Air Force Major General, retired Jay Lindell, for moderating today, and we'll introduce General Lindell in just a moment. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Governor Primavera was unable to join us today. So a couple words about Colorado Business Roundtable before we begin. We're an affiliate of the National Business Roundtable based in Washington, D.C., representing the interests of some of America's largest employers. We work on public policy issues that affect employers here, not only in Colorado, but also nationally and sometimes internationally. And our partners have a big footprint economically here in Colorado, about 80,000 Colorado employees and 1.7 million global employees, about 12.1 billion in Colorado revenue. And when you add up global revenue, our partners total approximately 864 billion in global revenue. And we come from every type of sector, from technology to aerospace, manufacturing, healthcare, and finance, to name a few. And our mission really is to unapologetically tell the story that business is a force for good, because we know that business isn't about brick and mortar. It's actually about the people who are affected every day, who invest and live and risk and live their lives here in Colorado. So those are some of our priorities, definitely within our state. So before we jump into the panel, a couple of the things that we've been working on with Colorado Business Roundtable that I want to bring to your attention. First is our Road to Recovery initiative. We brought together, in partnership with Common Sense Institute, about 70 different individuals in Colorado that come from different walks of life that represent academia, business, community, and government this summer and fall to convene on how we can lean in even more on Colorado's economic recovery, to make sure that the private sector does what the private sector does best: recharge, rehire, reopen, and help to solve some of the ills that were forced onto our economy and to people from the global pandemic. So part of the Road to Recovery brought together recommendations of an economic nature for how Colorado can have forward momentum looking at the long term. And we focused on three key areas. One was on prioritizing a competitiveness agenda, which focused on tax and regulatory structure. The second was about reimagining Colorado's workforce. And the third was about investing in a future forward infrastructure. These recommendations have been put forward to Colorado's public policy leaders, and we look forward to helping, again, the private sector lean into these discussions. One way that you can be helpful to us is we're reconvening the group that worked so closely together in 2020. We're reconvening on June 15th for a Road to Recovery Ideas Summit 2.0, and look for more information. We'd invite you to join us in this important collaboration. The second thing I want to bring to your attention is we've just recently launched a Faces of Business campaign, which highlights 20 different Colorado businessmen and women who, again, come from every type of sector, big business, small business, and it highlights how we're all in this together as Colorado's business ecosystem. And so I'd encourage you to go to our website to find more out about the Faces of Business and also Road to Recovery and how you can be involved in Colorado Business Roundtable. And our website is cobrt.com. So excited to also know that we work on convening and collaborating on Colorado's issues, in particular around economic issues. And that brings us to today's event, which is a focus on the importance of the aerospace community in Colorado's economic ecosystem. And so to jumpstart us, I want to introduce our board chair for Colorado Business Roundtable, who also happens to be in aerospace as Boeing's site director for Colorado, Dave Eddy, for the purpose of an introduction for our moderator. Dave has been with the Boeing company for 30 years and is, as I mentioned, the Boeing site director for the Aurora and Colorado Springs locations. Dave is very active in the community, not only serving as board chair of our organization, but also very active in the education sector. So welcome, Dave Eddy.
Hey, thank you, Debbie. On behalf of the Board of Directors for Colorado Business Roundtable, I want to welcome you to this webinar today. We have a stellar panel as well as an outstanding moderator. As Debbie outlined, we've been working and having discussions across the region, especially with some of our congressional, both state and federal level representatives and senators. So we're looking forward to a robust discussion today, and I'm excited to hear these leaders within the aerospace industry give us some perspective on how, as we all look to regain what the new normal will be, what the economy and how aerospace will impact that in the state of Colorado and across the nation. So it's my pleasure to introduce General Jay Lindell. He serves as the Aerospace and Defense Industry Champion at the Colorado Office of Development and International Trade. And in that role, he works extensively with local, state, federal, research and development institutions, trade associations, and businesses to develop a vibrant business climate to maintain, sustain, and grow aerospace and defense business in Colorado. Jay served in the U.S. Air Force for over 33 years, retiring as a Major General with his last assignment to the Pentagon, serving under the Air Force Assistant Secretary for Acquisition as the Capability Director, Global Power Programs. He's a command pilot with over 4,400 flying hours and includes 148 combat hours, and he's commanded at several levels and served within multiple staffs to include the U.S. European Command, the Air Staff, Air University, and U.S. Air Force Europe. Please welcome Jay Lindell.
Well, good morning, and a pleasure to be here. And Dave, you overdid that introduction, but thank you very much for the very kind introduction. And Debbie, a pleasure to be here to talk about the Colorado aerospace industry and be a part of the Business Roundtable Road to Recovery series. And today's topic, Colorado aerospace industry, exploration and innovation. And I couldn't talk of a more fun, dynamic topic. Of course, that's my job in the Office of Economic Development, but it is a thriving industry sector. And I will say that through the pandemic, the industry has continued to thrive and continued to grow and has been a shining star in our economy. So it's just a lot of fun to talk about it. And some examples of our industry in Colorado. First of all, why space? And why is space so important to our nation, so important to our economy, so important to our national defense? Well, there's over 2,200 active satellites in space that generate immense quantities of data to support our infrastructure, our economies, our national security systems around the world. And the economic impact of just one system, the Global Positioning System, and this is data from the National Institute of Technology in Boulder, is a $1.4 trillion economic impact to the U.S. And much more than just positioning and navigation signals, it's a timing signal coming out of GPS accurate to 10 billionths of a second that times our whole information system grid, our whole financial transactions coming out of our financial market. An ATM transaction enables us to get that date timestamp and complete a financial transaction, an ATM withdrawal through the GPS timing signal. So when you look at space and how important it is just to our daily lives that we all rely on, and if I was traveling anywhere today, I would have my maps up, space generated, communicating to me on traffic and so forth, the best route, which all of us do, even to many places that we visit all the time. So space is such an immense part of our economy and our daily lives. Some other things about space: our utility companies synchronize energy flow across our electrical grid. Scientists monitor the climate through space-based sensors and technology. Farmers monitor crops and yields. Weather satellites tell us when it will rain, snow, and estimate the snowpack on those ski slopes, which is increasing right now. At least where I live, there's about 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground. And all of us have been ordering packages online. Well, space-based technology enables us, it tells us when that package is going to arrive. So at the epicenter of all of this space-based capability, Colorado plays an enormous impact. We do have the #1 private sector space economy per capita, employment per capita in the nation. Now, I say #1 per capita because there is another state on the West Coast called California that employs roughly double the amount of aerospace employees that Colorado does. We have over 33,000 employees, direct employees in the aerospace sector in Colorado. California will have over 63,000 employees. However, they're 7 times our population. So #1 by far per capita in the nation, and we're the #2 space economy in the nation behind California. Some other data on our aerospace economy. We have over 290 direct aerospace related businesses, and we have over 500 companies in Colorado and suppliers supporting more than 230,000 aerospace related jobs across all industry sectors in Colorado. And what I mean by related jobs is there are some companies that use space-based data analytics for other purposes, or they manufacture maybe a part or a piece that goes on a satellite system. But when you add it up, this is a thriving aerospace economy in Colorado. And at the center of it, it's not just the business climate, the aerospace industry. It's also a very propelled by a University of Colorado, that does a great job supporting the education, the science, the research that helps propel and a catalyst for our economy. And I'll state that CU Boulder is a nation's top recipient of NASA research awards. And so that is actually a big part of not only on the defense side of space, it's so immense in Colorado, but the growing civil and commercial sector of space. A couple other things about our aerospace. About 63% of our aerospace economy is directly related to Department of Defense, and roughly another 20-25% to NASA programs and NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which has a headquarters in Boulder. So when you look at all of that, we're about 85% federal government funded when it comes to aerospace in Colorado. However, there is a growing private commercial sector in Colorado. But I'll state through the pandemic, those government dollars have remained strong, funding this aerospace economy. And with, I'm going to state Colorado Space Coalition data, through 2020, the aerospace economy grew at 10.1% in Colorado. Those are strong numbers through a pandemic to continue that remarkable growth. The national average, by the way, was 3.7%. So we're almost triple the growth rate of the national average with aerospace in Colorado. So just a lot of fun to talk about. I could talk more and more all day, but I really want to talk with our panelists today. And a little more background on my job. I've been in the job for over 7 years now, going on year 8. Promoting aerospace in Colorado, and I think I have the most fun job in all the state. And it's a pleasure when we're able to get out and meet businesses, work with the industry associations, work with the research and development organizations, the businesses that promote, the organizations that promote our economy, specifically aerospace, such as the Colorado Business Roundtable. Just a lot of fun. And I know this panel discussion today will be a lot of fun with our panelists that we have. And I don't think, Debbie, we could have found better panelists for today's discussion. And I will let the panelists introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their role of aerospace in Colorado. And I think first on the list, I have Danny Moore, President, DeNOVO Solutions. Danny, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jay. And thank you to the Colorado Business Roundtable for hosting this event. DeNOVO Solutions is a small service-disabled veteran-owned business that operates in the aerospace and defense industry. We specialize in signal intelligence, engineering design, and software development, and fulfilling the needs of our aerospace and defense partners and customers. We are honored to be here today, and we look forward to a robust discussion.
Thank you, Danny. Kevin O'Neill from Catalyst Campus. Thanks for joining us, Kevin.
Thanks, Jay. Good morning. I am the CEO of the O'Neill Group. We're an investment firm and the founder of a community collaborative campus called the Catalyst Campus. I am a serial entrepreneur that previously owned 7 commercial and defense companies that supported space activities for the Air Force, Space Force, NOAA, NASA, and the NRO. Today, my days are spent growing our local nonprofit at Catalyst Campus called CCTI. We have over 300,000 feet of labs, satellite operation centers, communication centers, and collaborative space. We focus on growing new technology through the labs at all levels of security. We operate an acceleration program on behalf of the government through our nonprofit. We'll be adding incubation this coming year to support new entrepreneurs. We have 6 government sectors that house in the campus located in Colorado Springs. We do have 2 campuses open today, with 2 more opening this year and 2 more opening on the drawing board. That will span most of the United States. Our goal is to create a network of campuses using college students and small companies as a backbone to advance solutions to the government problems. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kevin. And Tony Przbyslawski, thanks a lot for joining us today. And please go ahead.
Hey, Jay, thanks. And thanks for this opportunity. Debbie, thank you for invite. I'm Tony Przbyslawski, the Executive Director for Air Force and Space Programs within Global Sales and Marketing. Not only the Air Force programs, but obviously here in Colorado for space. Here in Colorado, we, without getting into the specifics of the program, but all of our work is associated with the defense. You got 3 gems here. You got Schriever Air Force Base, Peterson Air Force Base, and Buckle. So within those 3 bases, space control is important. Space domain awareness is important. Assured access to space is important. Support to the warfighter. All of those priorities that have been established already are supported in this state. So it's we truly are a national asset to the future of America here. Thanks.
Thank you, Tony. Joe, go ahead, please.
Hey, good morning, sir. Thank you for the invite, Debbie, and thanks everybody for joining us to talk about aerospace. So Lockheed Martin has around 12,000 employees in Colorado, mostly in the Denver metro area, but also in other places around the state, including suppliers on the western slope of Colorado. So truly a statewide presence. We do things in Colorado that people around the world use every day, such as weather satellites, communication satellites, GPS, that General Lindell mentioned, a variety of national defense systems, as well as exploration spacecraft, both robotic and human spaceflight. And of course, the flagship human spaceflight program that Lockheed Martin is part of is NASA's Artemis program, which will send the next man and the first woman back to the moon and soon thereafter onto Mars. Lockheed Martin's role is the Orion capsule, We partner very closely with so many aerospace companies in Colorado, have a part of the Artemis program. A big one, of course, is Boeing and the Space Launch System rocket, which hopefully will have a test flight here the end of this year. And the last thing I'll say about Lockheed Martin's Colorado connection is one that's unfortunately far too familiar to many in the state, and that has to do with wildland fires. The unfortunate part is that wildland fires have been increasing. So it's not the space division, but the Sikorsky helicopter division of Lockheed Martin builds the Black Hawk helicopter. And there's a company here in Colorado that turns the Black Hawk into a Firehawk. And that's a firefighting helicopter, the most capable firefighting helicopter that is out there that can fly in high altitudes, high winds, smoke, all sorts of things. So we're really happy to be part of Colorado's aerospace ecosystem, as well as to help address Colorado's wildland fire problem. So that helicopter should be delivered mid-fire season next year. Thank you very much, sir. Am I just frozen, or is everyone?
Joe, I hear you loud and clear. I lost you for a minute or two there.
Oh, goodness. Well, that was the best introduction I ever gave, sir.
Oh, well, it was very good. Okay. Debbie, do you still hear us? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, good. All right, I would like to start the panel with wait, we've got Kevin. I'm sorry, Kevin, and when I lost Joe, I forgot to that you are our last panelist to introduce. So Kevin Runyan, please go ahead.
Thanks, Jay. Hey, excited to be here today. My name's Kevin Runyan. I am the Director for Vehicle Systems Development, responsible for development of the new Vulcan Centaur rocket that will be launching for the first time later this year. At United Launch Alliance, we have a whole number of Colorado connections. Personally, I'm a Colorado kid, grew up in Southeast Aurora and attended the Air Force Academy, where I was commissioned and did some time in the Air Force before coming back and hiring on with Lockheed Martin and then United Launch Alliance. We've got over 1,200 employees up and down the Front Range supporting our company's efforts. Some of the other things that we do that are very important to the Colorado economy, I think, are helping to continue to feed the pipeline and build excitement about the aerospace industry by providing opportunities for students up and down the Front Range, partnering with Colorado State University, University of Colorado, Colorado School of Mines, United States Air Force Academy, and other institutions as we partner together to make sure we're filling that pipeline. In addition, to all of the other connections that we have, obviously, from a business perspective, operationally being able to work with great partners and customers, including but not limited to the Orion customer that was mentioned earlier, Sierra Nevada up on the north side of Denver. We'll be launching the first Sierra Nevada Dream Chaser cargo payload here on Vulcan next year. So very, very excited about that. And, just continuing to provide opportunities to get people to space. And, for me, being part of actually building the rockets and putting these payloads on orbit and creating the capability is something that's so great about what we do here at ULA and especially in Colorado.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and thanks to all our panelists for the introductions, and especially Kevin from ULA. I so miss going to a launch, whether it be down at the Cape or out at Vandenberg, and I can't wait for the next opportunity when we're cleared to travel and can convene again and go see a launch. Those are thrilling and just exciting. So hopefully by the end of the year, we can make that happen, Kevin.
Absolutely. We look forward to it.
Well, very good. Panelists, thank you very much for the introductions. I want to pose a question for all of you to get an answer, hear what you think. But let me talk first of all about our national security space industry in Colorado. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. It really is a catalyst and propels the aerospace economy. It helps propel the civil commercial space side of our economy with the technology and innovation that comes out of it. What do you think are the most important steps that we need to ensure that we maintain growth of our industry sector? And I'll say more than just the national security side, but the civil commercial sector. So what are those steps that we need to take to maintain that growth and the great paying jobs, the technology development that's very important to our economy? So let me start with, hey, Tony, you're in the top left of my screen. Tony, what do you think?
I just participated in, with this new Space Force thing. We just had a major call sponsored by the Space Foundation, which is right here in Colorado. And they talked about the importance of our defense sector cannot succeed in this second wave of the space industry driven by defense. And we cannot succeed on the defense side unless we have the commercial partnership with us, because the commercial can move a lot faster, and we just haven't leveraged them as much as we can. We have, but for the success of our national defense, we have to be hand in glove, arm in arm, going forward with and leveraging the commercial ventures that are going on. So that is probably the cornerstone of the partnership that has to occur.
Great, I agree. Joe, what do you think?
Thank you, sir. So Colorado is a great place to live, obviously. It's got a very competitive business environment. And I'll say everything that Tony said, but also the attention of state and local leaders, as well as the support of the community as a whole. And this is really where Colorado shines. We have organizations and the attention of state and local leaders, as well as our federal delegation, that no other state has. Every state says they're special, and they are, right? Everybody is special, but what's special about Colorado Aerospace, as just one example, it really shows that it's more than just words that we're special. There is, in the annual appropriations process in Congress every year, there's a letter that goes around supporting the Artemis program, full funding for Orion and the Space Launch System. And members of Congress sign on to that letter. Colorado is the only state where all 9 members of the delegation, both House and Senate, Democrat and Republican, have signed on. No other state has had their entire delegation sign on. That is truly a sign that Colorado does cooperate well. And of course, your position as aerospace and defense industry champion for the state of Colorado, the leadership of the Lieutenant Governor, her direct engagement, there are always going to be issues. There's always going to be challenges. And having state and local and federal leaders, it is truly all 3 levels, that care about the aerospace industry and are willing to engage with us just to have a conversation, right? They never can always do what any one particular constituent group wants, but just the fact that we can be heard, have a conversation, they understand our issues, and then prioritize it with all the other things they have to prioritize, that is important. So thank you to Cobert. They're another aerospace champion. It is these kinds of things that make Colorado very effective and how we can maintain the #1 aerospace ranking per capita that you spoke about.
Well, thanks, Joe. Danny, what are your thoughts on continuing to grow this marvelous economy of aerospace in Colorado?
Hey, thank you for that question. I think people probably don't realize that in 2019, 280 aerospace companies employed over 30,000 software engineers and developers here in Colorado. Over that period, we had about a 7% growth in business and companies. What that means is that we're getting pressures from academics and also from new industries. Our pool of engineers is getting more and more shallow. The ability to clear people to work on these very important programs. What we have done is try to partner with organizations like DU and CU to bring in interns early as their sophomore year, in order to get a taste of what it's like to be in aerospace and defense. We need to continue to grow that pool of talented engineers who are willing to come in and do the work of not only Space Command, but aerospace and defense as well.
Great answer there, Danny. Kevin, I miss seeing you down at the Catalyst campus. You know, it seems like in normal times I'd be down there at least once a week for an event. So a lot going on at the Catalyst campus, and I know a lot going on today. So what are your thoughts about continuing to propel this marvelous industry in Colorado?
You know, I think the first three panelists hit it pretty well all around the labor in the industry, but we could take a different position on this around infrastructure. Brick and mortar is a necessary evil to do work in, whether it's on the base or off the base. And I think our ability as a community, as a state, to continue to have that infrastructure planned out and laid out in front of the growth plate. So as we know, the dollars that come from the federal government sometimes can only be spent in a certain fashion. We need to fill the gaps where they cannot fund. And most of that is around brick and mortar and infrastructure, especially off the base. Facilities that we can work in at the unclassed level, but also the classified space. I think most importantly, it's the classified space. As we know, there's a multi-year build out for most of those spaces, along with a lot of capital. And those spaces to be able to work in, I think is critical for our future and the government's future to be able to grow here more easily.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin, and thanks for all you do propelling the economy, and Catalyst Campus is a big part of it. And thanks for hosting the governor on an event talking about the aerospace and defense sector down at the Catalyst Campus. Kevin from ULA, go ahead. What do you think?
You bet. Thanks, Jay. You know, it's an interesting question, and I think that a couple of things come to mind for me. One is, Danny talked a little bit about it. It's important for us to continue to feed the pipeline. And that happens through, I think, generating excitement with young people about the importance of what we do and making a connection to real life applications. And so generating that excitement, I think, is really what comes as a fruit of meaningful internships. And so as companies across Colorado, when we can provide meaningful internships, you know, in the news recently, we just saw a test activity associated with Orion. And at ULA, you know, we're able to provide real life operational, you know, capabilities here on site in Denver for day of launch. And also send folks out to the factory and send them to the launch site and feel the thunder of a space launch. And you yourself kind of mentioned how exciting that is, right? And it's something that has a lasting impression and gets you excited about space and about the aerospace industry. And so continuing to feed that pipeline and provide meaningful opportunities by partnering with academia and making sure that those students have ample opportunities to be engaged. And the other part of it, I think, is really drawing a connection to what we do and how that applies to everyday life. You talked about it up front in terms of you know, the applications that we use all across our daily lives in terms of weather prediction and navigation, you know, be it personal or corporate use, things like that, and how that all has ties to Colorado, I think is important for us. Because I think when people come here, the state sells itself, right? This is a great place to live. Everybody wants to be here. So those are things that we need to do to continue to draw people to our economy.
Well, thanks, Kevin. Great answer. All great answers from our panelists. Danny, I got a specific question for you. Of course, we're all involved in the technology business, probably more in your business. And what do you think are the key technologies that will continue to propel space business development in Colorado? Where do you think we're going? What are those key technologies?
Thank you for the question, Jay. I think what we're starting to see is we're seeing things like zero fuel aircraft that are being built by companies right here in Colorado, companies like Aerospace. That is going to innovate how we approach air travel. We're seeing automated model-based system engineering being developed in order to help NASA build not only bases on the moon, but bases actually on Mars. advances in materials that we're seeing, autonomous vehicles and navigation. These advances are going to take us far, and it's going to continue to allow us to innovate. The most exciting piece of new technology that I've seen is around sustainable aviation fuel. What we see there is this growing. I think United Airlines has announced that it is moving towards sustainable aviation fuel. So when you talk about cleaning up our environment, aerospace is at the forefront of innovating to clean up the environment and to get us to a neutral carbon-based system.
Great. Hey, I knew you were such the expert, Danny. Thanks for that answer. Hey, Tony, I got a question for you. A lot about Space Force and Space Command, and when I'm talking on various web meetings, Zooms, you got it, Google Meets, WebExes, quite often from the public, the question will come up about what is Space Force and what is Space Command? Can you help maybe clarify Space Force and Space Command, what the difference is to our audience who may not be familiar with military organizations?
Hey, thanks, Jay. Yeah, it is confusing, I'm sure, to many people. And it's just because, and General Raymond, who's the commander of Space Force, is intentionally trying to create lexicon of a military service. So the easiest way to understand what Space Force is all about is think of the Marine Corps. Okay, the Marine Corps comes under the Navy, Department of Navy, and Space Force is the same kind of a concept that comes under the United States Air Force. General Raymond has a seat on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Okay, there's actually two generals that everyone knows about. Is General Raymond and General Hyten, both space commanders, both sit on that Joint Chiefs. Now we'll dig a little deeper. Under Space Force comes U.S. Space Command. That is the combatant command assigned to the Space Force. And that is located now in Colorado Springs. You know, there's a little political game going on about location. We won't go into that, but General, what's his name? I keep forgetting about it. It's an Army general who now is the commander of that.
Dickinson, yeah.
Dickinson, yes, thank you. Then there are these field commands that come under U.S. Space Command, and they're like major commands of the service under Space Force. And that is the Operations Command, the Systems Command, and my favorite is the Training and Readiness Command, STAR Command. So you can see the lexicon, the verbiages that are being developed for that. Now, and the people assigned to Space Force are not airmen, are not soldiers, are not seamen, they are guardians. It's something to think about for everyone on this call. You know, we're talking about road to recovery and where are we going to go in the state. This is the road to opportunity with the stand-up of this new Space Force. Yes, there's opportunities, there's challenges, there's headwinds that we have to do this, but the opportunity of this new command is very significant. A challenge is the customers want us to go faster. They want us to be innovative. That's a culture change more than anything in the industry, and we need to be able to respond to that. The headwinds, of course, is the uncertainty in budgets. What's going to happen? Everyone should know this. Space is a contested area. Our adversaries know, and this is really the reason why Space Force is stood up and critical. Our adversaries know how dependent we are on our space assets. And as a result of that, space is now a contested domain. That's a long answer, Jay. I hope I touched on all the key points, but you know, that's really why we're entering into the second age of the space domain, given this concept. Thanks.
No, Tony, great answer, and thanks for filling many people in on what Space Force is and what Space Command is and how important they are for our nation to defend the domain of space. Okay, I want to probably just ask one more question before we get in. I see our chat room is filling up. I don't see the chat questions, Debbie, so you'll have to help me out with that. But I want to ask one more question. And Joe, this is a key question for you. You've been engaged in Colorado Aerospace for a long time, a great promoter. What are the key organizations that promote aerospace economic development in Colorado? If somebody wants to get involved, how do they get involved in any of these organizations?
Sir, I have, you know, this is kind of a hard question to answer because there are so many. We are a very robust state, and it's a great problem to have. It's a very, very good problem to have this many organizations. And the other thing is, it's kind of this Western cooperation. They work together well, right? There certainly are some overlaps, but there's synergies. So if somebody wants to be involved, I think, and I'll just mention a few, and of course, this is always perilous, right? Because there's, you know, you'll inevitably have to take a while to mention them all. I think if you're in the aerospace business or interested in doing business in the aerospace business, I would say groups like the Colorado Space Coalition and the Colorado Space Business Roundtable. Consider Googling them, getting involved with them. The Colorado Space Coalition is out of the Denver Metro EDC. They cover the entire state and they promote aerospace. They work a lot in federal and state policy. And so that's a good organization to consider joining. The Colorado Space Business Roundtable has a broader base of membership because it includes a lot of smaller companies. Now, see, the Colorado Space Coalition has a lot of small companies as well. So don't feel like if you're small, you can't belong to Colorado Space Coalition. You absolutely can. But the Colorado Space Business Roundtable includes a lot more companies and frankly, even a lot of companies who maybe only do a little work in space, right? They might be a software company that has 80% of their business in something else. So again, they can also still be involved in the Space Coalition if they want. What the Colorado Space Business Roundtable focuses a lot on is business-to-business development. So if you have a contract with Boeing and want to, you know, try to build some contacts with United Launch Alliance as well, you know, CSBR is a good way to get business-to-business contacts. And there's a lot of other things that CSBR does as well, but I'd say that that's kind of the primary difference between those organizations. And if you're, you know, just interested in space, there's a group called Colorado Chapter of Citizens for Space Exploration. You mentioned earlier going to a launch. They have, in pre-COVID times and post-COVID times, the Colorado Chapter of Citizens for Space Exploration has organized groups of people from every walk of life who are just interested in space, and we'll come down to the Cape, and the United Launch Alliance has usually always been a great partner and will often help us organize events and take people out. You know, almost every time, you know, sometimes operationally you can't do it, but we've been very successful in getting groups out on the launch pad a day or two before the launch. And that is, you don't think it's, you know, maybe you do think it's cool, but it's much cooler than what you're imagining. You go out there and stand in front of a rocket a day or so before it launches. You bond with it. You really, you feel like an emotional connection when that rocket goes up the next day. So again, Colorado Space Coalition, Colorado Space Business Roundtable, Colorado Chapter of Citizens for Space Exploration are great ways to get involved. And all three of them together, again, partnerships, form the state chapter of the Aerospace States Association. And that's kind of a national group of state officials that advocate to the federal government and also coordinate amongst the states, you know, just like industries, you know, the states are frenemies, they're competimates, right? But this is the cooperation part of the aerospace industry and really helps us advocate for the federal government as well as to cooperate amongst each other. And the last group I'll mention, and again, there's many, many others, but if you're an aerospace professional, technical or non-technical, the Rocky Mountain section of the AIAA, American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, is a very robust organization. And again, there's a lot of cross-pollination between these groups. You'll see a lot of the same people, and a lot of the same people are involved in various groups. But we truly are a state where anybody, whether you're interested, whether you're in the business, are interested in getting into the business, are interested in growing your business, or just understand and think space is cool and important, there's a way for you to get involved. So reach out to Vicki Lee, Larry Solomon, Stacy DeFore with AIAA, any number of people on this call, and we can connect you to wherever you think the right fit for you is.
Joe, thanks a lot. And you're engaged everywhere there's space in Colorado. You're engaged with that organization. So thanks for all you do to promote aerospace in Colorado. Hey, I want to move on, I think, to panelist questions. We've had great answers here, but I do see, I have my chat function up, and I do see a question I want to have asked. And the question for the panelist is, it comes from Michael Macklin. I'm curious about talent development strategies of the organizations represented today. Many of you have mentioned partnerships or relationships with universities in the state. Do you have any partnerships or relationships with community colleges for talent development? Open to all our panelists. Go ahead.
I guess I'll chime in from a ULA perspective. We certainly have active programs with some of the larger universities, not only up and down the Front Range, but across the country. I will say, however, that we do provide internship opportunities that every year that are open to any applicants, and that includes community colleges or any other interested parties across the nation. And so those typically come about in kind of the fall to early winter timeframe as we start to make the selection process for the summer internships in particular. Those tend to be more popular and more competitive from that nature. But we have thousands of folks that apply for those internships. And again, they're great opportunities to get involved and be on the ground floor of space.
And I'll just, great answer, Kevin. And I'll just comment that in economic development for the state, one of the greatest issues we have is the development of skill, qualified personnel that can maintain, to want to achieve and have a security clearance, maintain a security clearance, and work in this marvelous space industry in Colorado. So really it's talented, qualified personnel that becomes a limitation to growing this aerospace economy. And I just want to get into that a little bit more, because it's not only our universities, so many of the jobs are technical level jobs, community colleges producing technicians, those technical skilled jobs that are so vitally important to aerospace manufacturing, aerospace development, software development in Colorado. So any comments from our panelists on how we can better develop, how we can better inspire, how we can grow the talent, qualified personnel in Colorado?
Yeah, Jay, I'd like to take that. I think Kevin hit on this when he talked about getting young people involved earlier. One of the things we need to do in our community is we've got to make software development a blue collar job, right? We have to make it accessible to young people and teenagers early on in their development, and then we have to put them on a path where they're focused on STEM development. I think that's really the key in order to grow more of the pipeline that we're talking about here today.
Thank you, Danny. Anybody else comment?
Yeah, sir. I'll trail off of what Danny just said. Really, so think of the whole pipeline, right? We have to get kids interested early in just thinking space is cool. I mean, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, right? So it really does start as early as you can. And this is one place, again, where like CSBR, Colorado Space Business Roundtable, has a kind of an introductory internship program that everybody on this call has been involved with. Dave Eddy's hosted them. ULA has hosted several times. So we take kids around, high school and college kids, And we just show them all what's in the industry, not everything because it's so big, a good cross section, big companies, small companies. They've been down to Catalyst campus, all of these kinds of things just to pique that interest. So think of it, it really is the whole ecosystem, because we often do focus a lot on the engineers, and they're very important. So I'm not minimizing that. But bachelor's, master's, and PhDs, that is where we work with CSU, CU, lots of other universities. MSU Denver has a degree technician program. So these are all very, very important. But we also need to focus on the technicians with high school or some college. That is frankly where we tend to have, it's most overlooked, because I think, even as Danny just said, people don't think about it as a good job, or they think they have to go to college or they're a failure. And absolutely not true. There are great paying jobs with great potential with some certifications and even a 2-year degree. If I were to say, to wrap it up, what our biggest kind of current needs are, and again, there's needs across the board. So just because I don't mention something doesn't mean it's not important. But the technician level, and we have a great Colorado-led here too, creating an advanced manufacturing apprenticeship program that's been copied by other states. But technicians, software, and then you mentioned clearances across the board. So really learning for ways to work with universities to get clearances to students is important. And we also have the final thing I'll mention is a associates program. So somebody mentioned community colleges. We're working with the Colorado Community College System on the software apprenticeship, or software associates program, SWAP. So they come in, they study software for the first year. We take them into the program. They apply for their clearance while they complete their associate's degree, and then hopefully they graduate and have their clearance about the same time, and then we employ them. So it really is across the board an ecosystem, and there are shortages everywhere.
Great answer. One of the, from an audience member, Ellen at CSU, your question there, you're right. There's a great engineering program at CSU supporting aerospace engineering, which is a new program. But, you know, it's a mechanical engineering, and I'll say most engineers in Colorado are not aerospace engineers, they're actually mechanical engineers employed in the aerospace sector, and a great engineering program. So Ellen, please, from CSU, I'm sorry I didn't mention that, but contributing a lot to the aerospace economy, talent development in Colorado. Okay, Debbie.
Jay, let me add another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
The wealth of resources when we start considering diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is a totally untapped resource that we really, as the entire industry, the academia, everyone, if we really took that seriously, that would solve many of our developmental problems, security clearances, every challenge we have finding people. We're sometimes not going after that untapped resource.
Yes, you're exactly right. And I did see some data nationally that aerospace, particularly space sector, when we say aerospace, we say aviation and aerospace. In Colorado, space is a much bigger sector than the aviation in terms of economic value and output. However, it tends to be white male dominated. And we do need, the point made, to better be more inclusive in the aerospace industry and seek out this mix of individuals and talent that we have to support this industry sector. So thank you very much for making that point.
You left out middle age, sir. You left out middle age.
Yeah, we tend to be an older sector also in Colorado.
Joe, I forgot about middle age a long time ago.
But it's a great, you know, you're exactly right, and a good point that we, in economic data that I've seen relative, we tend to be a middle-aged older sector compared to other sectors like the information technology sector in Colorado. You'll see a lot of younger millennial generation, if you will, whereas in aerospace, we do tend to be an older segment of employees in the state?
Very seriously, we are, I think, across the board, and Tony mentioned diversity and inclusion and youth as well. We really are, I think we're on the upswing there. We really are starting to do better. There was a gap there where you look at kind of mid-senior level, it is exactly what you just said. But one fun fact about Lockheed Martin, by the end of this year, all the VP general managers at Lockheed Martin are going to be in space, Lockheed Martin Space, are going to be women. And of course, at the younger end of the spectrum as well. So we're getting better, and we need to keep doing better, as Tony said.
Right, exactly. Hey, I see a question, Crystal Scordo, to all panelists, talks about intern, CSBR intern specifically, but I think it was commented on earlier here in our discussion, but internships are so vital to growing, inspiring youth for the aerospace industry. And it can remain hidden, if you will, unless people really know and understand how fun it is and how fun it starts being an intern. Can anyone on the panel comment about either their business or how they support interns, their internship programs, and so forth? And I'm going to look at, I'll look at Tony here on Boeing's intern program.
Hey, thanks for that opportunity, Jay. We've been working interns forever. It is part of the hiring process. It's overhead. We do hire interns as best we can, but there's always that challenge. You know, here in Colorado, much of our work is on the classified area. Getting someone to get a interim secret clearance sometimes is a challenge, given the lifestyle. There are challenges in that, but we do everything we can to get the interns in. And it changes the complexion of the organization when you bring that in, because the intern will say, well, why do you do it that way? Or, gee, here, how about trying this? So it's very important to the future of the company, but we probably, in my opinion, don't do it enough. I'm just saying.
Right. Any other panelists? Kevin, I think you came off mute from ULA.
Yeah, one thing I just want to add is I think one part of internships that is an important part in terms of attracting the talent and the skill set that you talked about a little bit earlier is providing the meaningful roles as part of the internship. Another part of it, quite frankly, is making paid internships. And at ULA, we do offer paid internships. I think that's a big part of it in terms of attracting the top talent from across the state, across the country. One of the other things, besides the formal intern program that you mentioned that we're doing at ULA, is working to partnership as we draw that connection. As you know, ULA is our nation's premier launch provider for national security space launch. And drawing that connection and continuing to build the pipeline in terms of space professionals that actually start their career in the Air Force or Space Force, and then after either separating or retiring from active duty, will then hire on with some of the aerospace companies in Colorado. And even if those aren't ULA, there's benefit obviously to the overall industry and to the benefits and capabilities that we provide. And so actively partnering with not only with our friends down at the United States Air Force Academy, but also with local ROTC detachments at UCCS and other universities up and down the Front Range, or other areas where we're starting to develop stronger relationships and provide internship type opportunities through their military service.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other panelists want to add comment here?
Hey, Jay, I'd like to comment just real quickly. From a small business perspective, we just started our internship a year ago. So we had 4 interns come in. We hired 2. We have 2 more coming back. This year, we're increasing that to 6 interns. What we're trying to do is really show that from a small business perspective, you can provide that paid internship that allows, veterans who were aircraft mechanics are now software developers to get that experience that they need. So it's been very fruitful for the company, and I would encourage any company that's able to provide those kind of opportunities.
Hey, sir, just a
go ahead, Joe.
A couple things on internships. I put it in the chat here. One of the biggest challenges I've seen is a lot of students wait until after the holidays to seek internships, and that works for many companies, so please do it. But to have the most opportunity, and I know for like Lockheed Martin, most of our internships for the following summer are hired before the holidays. So start looking early is number one. Number one, start looking early. Number two, as if you're early in your college career and your high school career, to be most competitive or to add to your competitiveness, get involved in student clubs in aerospace. There's all sorts of different organizations. Get on CSBR's email list. AIAA offers free membership for high school students. These are things that can help build your experience, build your resume, build your contacts. So get involved as early as you can, and that will help you apply for internships later on. And the final thing I'll say, sir, is, again, yes, we're predominantly technical, right? But there are lots of jobs that are not technical as well. So if somebody's interested in aerospace, we need HR, legal, finance, communications, government relations, procurement, transportation. There are all sorts of jobs in aerospace as well as the technical side.
All sorts of jobs. And let me also bring up an organization that I'm a board chair for. It's called the Colorado Space Grant Consortium. It's NASA funded. That promotes projects at the college level, not high school level, it's college level. Projects to work to inspire students. And the board I chair is the Colorado Space Grant Consortium. It's 21 colleges and universities, to include community colleges across the state of Colorado. And we get so many students who don't know much about aerospace and engineering, how much fun it is to, after participating in some projects, decide they want to get an aeronautical engineering degree or an engineering degree. And I'm sorry, Ellen, I'll mention CU again. The board, the lead university is the University of Colorado, and I chair the board there. But like I say, it involves 21 colleges and universities across the state, with the lead university being CU. And it's tremendous capability to a community college student who wants to better understand aerospace to get involved. And then we have so many that transfer to get a 4-year degree from a community college. But that is a program that I'll say that has done well promoting talent, qualified personnel for our state. And I'll just say I have a lot of fun being a part of the board and promoting aerospace at CU. Okay, another question, and Debbie, if you want to help me out here.
You bet. We had one come in from Allie with Manufacturer's Edge regarding supply chain in Colorado. And I suspect, knowing Allie, obviously they want to bring more manufacturing jobs to Colorado. I wonder, Jay, help direct it however you choose, but thinking about supply chain and how we can grow our presence here.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big, I think all our panelists might have something to say about that. So I won't call you out. Go ahead. Kevin O'Neill from Catalyst Campus. You're all about training, skill development, inspiring down at Catalyst Campus. Can you comment on the manufacturing development side and what you do at the campus?
So manufacturing is like herding cats, right? It's a very, very large industry, and this part doesn't necessarily fit with that part. But the reality is where we're trying to help is in the infrastructure support. So if you're familiar with the program called PEDCO out of Pueblo, where they are attracting companies, they can be manufacturing, and they are helping supply infrastructure, whether it's machinery, 3D printers, and other things under a grant program. We're supporting those. There's some state and federal programs that we try to get support from to the benefit of manufacturers around infrastructure support. The facility costs obviously are one of those things. The supply chain management obviously is a problem set, and manufacturers being so diverse, it's hard to really get a core function to their benefit. I think that the high schools and the colleges need to focus more on the trade. I know Colorado Springs has stood up a program around that, where we're teaching blue collar jobs, not just software and higher level education jobs. And that seems to be helping with workforce, which once again is a problem even in the manufacturing. So our part of it is really more support around helping those that want to go frontline, finding grants, finding buildings, finding labor force, and convincing universities and high schools to start teaching towards those skill sets they need.
Good. Great answer, Kevin. Thank you. Any other comments from our panelists?
Sir, I just put some notes in the chat box of people are interested in getting into aerospace or growing their presence, right? They have one company or one connection. Manufacturer's Edge, CSBR are great places to start. The two single biggest hurdles seem to be, for new companies getting in, seem to be IT certifications and manufacturing certifications. So those are two things to address. And frankly, you know, we haven't mentioned yet the Space Foundation in Colorado Springs. When the Space Consortium comes back, talk to us, CSBR. We can often get you down into the exhibit hall. And that's a great place to meet with dozens, if not hundreds of companies and find out if your business has a place in the aerospace industry. The answer is probably yes, but you have to decide if it's the right fit for you, because there's a lot of certifications and it often takes a lot of time to get in the industry. But we've seen small businesses do it, including SG Aerospace and Gas in Grand Junction that Manufacturers Edge help mentor and counsel and how to navigate the process. And of course, Mike with SG Aerospace and Gas in Grand Junction, he drove his process and he set a vision to get his small business more involved in aerospace, and it worked.
You worked, and now they're a supplier for Lockheed Martin, if I recall, Joe.
And I'll also throw out, we have a lot of resources. It sounds like all of you are a wealth of information on how to get involved, whether it's folks wanting to look at career choices or other ways to get involved in the aerospace sector. So we'll be sure to compile all that for the attendees today and make sure that that's put in our archive with the event as well. And Jay, I saw another question. You want me to read that out for you?
Yes, go ahead,
okay,
please.
You bet. And I would say probably Kevin O'Neill might be the first one to take a stab at this. This question is on the line of how do we encourage additional investment in particularly high growth companies, small and medium companies here in Colorado to try to grow the aerospace sector? But Jay, I'll toss that to you, but I would suggest Kevin might be the first one.
Well, great question. And I see it right now. Bob Caruso, thanks for asking. Yeah, you know, one of the shortfalls we do have is sometimes investors, especially with our small business community in the aerospace sector, and looking at the developing technology, it's not like it matures within a year or two. This is a longer time of development of the technology until an investor might see their capital come out of it. That's what I see with some of these companies, but I'll throw that question out. How do we attract more investment in the aerospace sector in Colorado? And specifically, Bob, you say your question is how do we attract more investment capital from VCs, private equity to support the growth of small to mid-sized Colorado aerospace companies?
So, Jay, you want me to go ahead and?
Yeah, Kevin, you're probably a perfect one to help start the answer there.
So if we look at a map of the venture capital that's around the United States, and if they were size of circles, you'd see a basketball on both coasts, and you might see a golf ball in Denver and a marble in Colorado Springs in the comparative size. For us, we've identified that is a problem, and what we're doing about it directly, which I know some of our partners on the line have their own investment funds, is we are starting an investment fund, a community investment fund that will in fact back these aerospace companies. And we're trying to scale that to open it somewhere around $500 million. We have that accelerating program that we're running for the AFRL on the campus and have now for several years. And we back those companies in investments. We're starting an incubation, but I think it comes with having the companies locally that have the demand for the capital and have that opportunity for them to grow locally, right? We have to start with that infrastructure, that collaborating environment where they feel that they can in fact start a company and find the talent. But then from there, right, how do you find it? And for us, it is pulling in the VCs from around the country, pulling in high net worth individuals and funds that are local so that we don't outsource that wealth as it grows. So it's a problem that we're focusing on every day, and solidifying our investments and abilities in these companies and what it looks like. We've invested now in 3 aerospace companies in the last 30 days. Although they're minority positions, what they are is an ability for us to help them grow. Obviously, with the goal of not losing them out of state, that if we can find them support systems locally and in the state, that we would be, they'd be much more happy to stay here and grow here. So that's our part. It's a small part. It's just really a very small part of the infrastructure that needs to go in the environment. But for us, plugging into these companies and helping them with local capital and local exposure, local relationships, local being statewide, but trying to keep them here for our military bases.
Kevin, thanks a lot. And I know I'm well aware of the investments you have made with businesses there and what you're doing to support local businesses. So thanks for all you do for Colorado, Kevin, and with investments from your company.
Hey, Jay.
Tony,
yeah,
go
Jay,
ahead.
I'd like to add, Allison Brown just brought up a very good point in the chat about AFWorks and SpaceWorks. These are DoD, yes, but their whole role is to invest in small companies, to bring them along, to provide challenges to the companies and pay for it. So there's many government agencies besides those, but specifically for Colorado, I think AFWorks and SpaceWorks are 2 critical, top of the shelf places to start to investigate in.
Exactly. And do you know, Tony, can somebody just Google up AFWorks or SpaceWorks and find information they need to get started? Or where would be the best place?
That's exactly how, there's the link out there that describes what those 2 organizations focus on, and you just take off with it. You can literally Google AFWorks and SpaceWorks, and that will give you where they are focused, and I think that's the best start to go after.
Great. I gotta read part of our chat, and this is from Vicki Lee to all panelists, talking about our own OEDIT, Office Economic Development International Trade, which I serve in as part of the governor's office. But our Advanced Industries Accelerator Grant Program has been extremely helpful on taking some of these businesses with innovative technology and progressing and growing them. And Vicki, you do chair that aerospace board. So thanks for all you do and working with a grant program from the state to help so many businesses. And thanks for putting that in the chat. Okay, Debbie, what else we got for a question?
You bet. I've seen a couple comments about the international implications of aerospace. Certainly we're focused on Colorado and what it means in terms of economic opportunity. But I see Purnima is in the chat. We've got some folks perhaps from the Canadian consulate on the chat, and would love to get some feedback perhaps about how we find collaboration internationally. A lot of the folks on the panel are representing global companies. So I think something along the lines of international cooperation and perhaps even the national security underlying piece would be very interesting to the group.
Good question. Open up to any of the panelists here.
Sir, it's Joe Rice. I will just say,
Yeah.
So think about some of the bold initiatives that we are working on in space, and they are international efforts. Getting back to the moon, getting onto Mars is an international effort. It's all the companies on this webinar, all the companies, most of the companies in Colorado. It truly is an international effort. And of course, you think about even the national defense side of things you brought out. I think our friends from Canada are rightfully proud to say that on 9/11, it was a Canadian general that handled the defense of North America. The deputy commander, the commander of NORAD, was out of the control room at the time. So truly international partnerships across the board. Yes, I think we want many of these things to be US led, right? We want it, but it's important to have international partnerships, especially amongst our key allies. And I know some of these other panelists can probably address in even more detail than I can.
Good point. 9/11 is a good point. Let's see. I'm going to call on Tony again on the international. I mean, Boeing's a big aerospace company around the world. Tony, any comments?
Many of our national defense programs would not be possible without the partnerships in the international realm, because we are all using the same equipment. We are all partnered. It's all, at least on defense, it's the support to the warfighter, regardless of what flag is on their shoulder. The NATO efforts, all of those are critical to the success of the programs. And it also helps to relieve the risk associated in development in new programs. So it's definitely important to us.
Good. Any other comments? Danny, is DeNOVO engaged in international business?
We are, and we're engaged in the UK and also in Australia. We have a small footprint in both those nations, and much of what we do here supports all of our Five Eyes partners as a whole. So we do both directly and indirectly.
Great. Any other comments on the question for international development, international business? I'll just make a point. We're missing the Space Symposium, which started off as a national event. It would really be an international event. In fact, the biggest space international event there is, which normally would be held this time of year at the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs. Last year, there was or the year before, 15,000 attendees, and it had to be capped because it's just running out of space. And increasing over the years, numbers of international attendees to this symposium. So space is a big international effort, which has been mentioned by our panelists here, and growing internationally. And I think getting us, like we have mentioned, stepping off to the moon and some of these big, it's not going to just take the United States to do it. It's an international effort to get to the moon, prove out technologies, and eventually get to Mars. And I can't wait to see the first woman step on Mars. Okay, what's another good question here? I think we still got more time, Debbie. Probably for another question.
Jay, I think we've got most of the questions answered. I might suggest we have time for the panelists to give 2 or 3 minutes of summarizing or concluding remarks, and then you and I can wrap up if that works for you.
That'll work very well. Very good. And so I'll start with Kevin down at the bottom. Kevin from ULA. Any final remarks? Kevin, please go ahead.
Well, let me first of all just say thank you for the opportunity to participate in this forum. You guys have been outstanding. The panels, fellow panelists, thank you for your time, and for everybody who's attending, great questions, great dialogue today. This is a very, very exciting time to be part of the aerospace industry. We are writing history every day. I think what is so important for us as part of fostering a continued growth and strength within our industry is drawing the connection between the mission and the capabilities that we are providing and putting on orbit and everyday life for everybody across the globe. And that goes from everything we've talked about today with K through 12 and our little tykes, maybe even in preschool, all the way through secondary education, postgraduate school, and then into the workforce. And, I think about GPS, the way it's affected our life. I think about the excitement around the crew launches and the International Space Station, the dialogue we just had about international cooperation and business opportunities. Jay just mentioned Mars and the recent Mars rover that just landed here last month, and how folks are excited about that, and making sure that we draw that connection to the capabilities we provide, and being able to launch those safely, put them on orbit, and then provide the capabilities not only to enhance the benefit of all of humanity, but for us in particular in this nation, to make sure that we draw that connection and folks understand that we're protecting and providing a way of life. I think it was mentioned earlier about the fact that space is a contested domain, and it's important that we continue to maintain our sovereignty as a nation and provide those capabilities. So again, thanks so much for being part of this.
Kevin, thank you. I'm inspired. I'm just going to keep doing this job forever after hearing your remarks. So thank you very much. Okay, our other Kevin, you're in the center of my screen here. Kevin from Catalyst Campus, go ahead.
I would take a position that really what we could do is continue to work on our unified front for the nation. That as a state, we need to continue to argue on our own behalf to support our state, use and encourage our politicians in a fashion that is an advocate for what we're building here in the state of Colorado, and really fight for that environment. And if we lose something, try to get something in trade in lieu of something we've lost that the state might have obtained. The other thing is that really for our large companies, and a lot of them are partners on the screen today and panelists, is to encourage to buy local. That sometimes you have to take a chance on local companies to help grow them, but then if you do, they become a company that's loyal to you. So for all of our audience, it is about buying our supply chain and helping and encourage our supply chain to get bigger and stronger. And it will just give us, back in return with our environment. So thank you. Thanks, Jay and Debbie, for the chance to be on the panel.
Very good. Kevin, how about Danny, concluding comment here?
Thank you, Jay. I'd just like to say in my lifetime, we've gone from the first launch of a man in space to now landing a man-made object on Mars. That alone is very remarkable. And as a young child watching that happen, I think it inspired me to want to learn more. And so I can't say it any better than Kevin said it, both the Kevins. We just need to continue to inspire our youth and inspire them to help defend this great creation that we've created. So thank you very much to Kobar. Thank you to Debbie Brown. Jay, thank you for hosting today. It's been a pleasure.
Danny, so inspiring. How do we defend this great creation here? Wow. Very good. Tony. Let's see, I've got you on mute, Tony, or I see you on mute. Any concluding comments?
Yeah, there. It wasn't
okay.
Up. Hey, gosh, just listening to what we were just summarizing on, how many times was that word inspired used? I mean, so think of that, folks, and everybody on this chat, everyone participating in this. Tremendous inspiration. At the end of the day, we must remember the one thing, that we are here to support the state of Colorado and its industry and developing of that industry and utilize that industry and continue to grow the industry in the state. That's the inspiration of this last hour and a half that everyone participating in this has to walk away with. And we will inspire space. Nice tagline. I like that, chat. Exactly what we should be thinking about. Okay, and maybe not so much the stock price, but at the end of the day, inspire space here in Colorado. Thanks.
Yeah, great.
And Debbie, thank you for including us on this. Tremendous opportunity for everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Great comments. Joe.
Thank you, sir. And thanks for moderating this panel and all the work you did to put it together. Thank you to Debbie and to Dave Eddy for leadership of Cobert and this panel as well, and all the fellow panelists. And thank you to everybody who attended. Whatever your interest was, whether you're seeking business opportunities or just interested in this topic or just attend everything that Cobert does, which you should do, thank you for attending. And if there's any interest you have in getting involved, again, business or just personal, please grab one of these organizations we talked about. And of course, I'm sure you can always go through Debbie to get involved in aerospace as well. Two quick things going forward, you know, what keeps you up at night, and two things that are emerging that there's so much talk about in aerospace we didn't talk about today. Artificial intelligence and hypersonics. I think AI was touched on a little bit. Those are two things to watch, and time for another panel. And maybe late this year, or for sure next year, we'll be down. We invite everybody down to Florida for the launch of the Space Launch System rocket with Orion on top, our path back to the moon and on to Mars. And then also with Crystal Morgan and our friends from ULA, hosting us down there for another amazing ULA launch. And you want to be a part of that. So stay connected with Cobert so you get that invitation. You want to be a part of that, I promise. Thank you.
Joe, you just got me so excited. I want to get to a launch. And 3 miles away where we normally stand from the launch, and you see the ignition, you feel the heat, it leaves the launch pad, then you hear the rumble. There's nothing better than that to get inspired. So can't wait to do that again, Joe. Okay, I think we're about out of time here, Debbie. If I look at the time here remaining, great panelists today. I don't think we could have picked a better group to talk about this topic of aerospace and space in Colorado, our exploration and innovation in this growing dynamic economy. Debbie, thank you very much for bringing it up as part of the Roundtable Road to Recovery series and being able to talk about Colorado aerospace, and thank you for inviting me to help moderate. This is a pretty easy job when you got great panelists like this. So thank you very much. And thank you to all the audience who attended today. And I see a lot of great questions in the chat room we never got to, but maybe next time we can do this, Debbie, and get to more questions. So thank you very much.
I think so. Thank you again, Jay, and thank you to the panelists. I'm looking forward to attending my first launch now that I'm such a fan of the aerospace community through my role with Colorado Business Roundtable. So exciting to hear about Space Command and Space Force from Tony, a little bit more about innovation and technology from Danny. Feel the thunder. I wrote that down from Kevin Runyan. I can't wait to feel that thunder from United Launch Alliance and hear more about infrastructure with Catalyst Campus and Kevin O'Neill. And of course, Joe Rice, your slide, I can't wait to see your slide on all the different ways people can be involved in aerospace, and looking forward to that. So a lot of information, especially for those of us who aren't in the trenches in aerospace. So we'll be sure to put that on our website as well. But appreciate all of you. I was thinking about what's the why as we close today. And the truth is, aerospace is not only economically incredibly important to Colorado, but the truth is everything that you all are creating through technology and innovation leads to the quality of life that we enjoy as Americans and to our security as well. So appreciate all of you, whether you're an engineer or in any of the other jobs in aerospace in Colorado, appreciate the value that you provide for us every day. So with that, I want to thank again our partners. If you'd like more information about Colorado Business Roundtable, you can find it at cobrt.com. And appreciate everybody's time. And this concludes our event. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.